The house. How long Henry was unconscious he could only guess, but it looked like he had just awoken from a long sleep. Croton was standing in front of him. "What just happened? Where did you go?" Henry asked. Croton was completely silent, and his entire posture was that of absolute indifference to the man in front of him. After a short pause, Henry said, "Please, forgive my behavior. I was wrong." "It's okay," replied Croton. "Never speak to me like that, or you will never see me again." "It will never happen," Henry said in a dignified tone. Croton knew that he meant it. "I took the liberty to make some changes of the scenery. I hope you will like it," Croton said. Only then did Henry notice that they were not in the pub anymore, but instead were standing on a beautiful white sand beach. The whole view was breathtaking. He had never seen water in such a beautiful turquoise color. Picturesque coconut palm trees were gently leaning toward the water. Everything reminded him of a picture in a travel magazine that Rose dreamed one day Henry would take her to. "Now you can turn around," Croton said. Henry could not believe his eyes. In front of him was a beautiful house, and it was his. "Rose," whispered Henry, and he ran like the wind toward the building. The door wasn't closed, and the force he applied to open the door was so great that it was a miracle the door did not fly off its hinges. Henry started to run from room to room in search of Rose. In the kitchen, he noticed that the stove was on and something was cooking. "She is definitely here," Henry said. "Maybe she's upstairs." Screaming, "Rose! Rose!" he ran up the staircase, jumping over the steps. The door to the master bedroom was open. He stopped in front of the door, and after a moment of hesitation, he carefully walked in. It seemed like he was afraid to awaken Rose. She wasn't in bed. He checked the bathroom and opened all the doors of the cupboards where Rose used to keep her clothes. Every single one of her dresses was there, tightly packed on hangers, and all the drawers were neatly organized just the way Rose liked to keep them. Everything was exactly the same way as it was before his departure. Only one thing was missing from this beautiful picture: Rose. That alone made everything else meaningless. He dropped like a log on top of the bed and started to cry. Tears uncontrollably filled his eyes and seeped into the blanket. He repeated over and over again, "Rose, Rose, Rose." He could not forgive himself for forgetting about her. All this time he was so preoccupied with this new reality, trying to understand how things worked here, that he completely forgot about her. He had disregarded what she might be going through right now. Croton, being the distant observer of this scene, said, "Done." Then he disappeared. The time that Henry spent on the bed was impossible to recall, though it wasn't important to him anymore. Every tiniest particle of his soul was with Rose. Like watching a movie, he began to remember his entire life from the moment he met her. Everything before was no matter. Scenes appeared with such clarity, as if they were happening right then. Henry was able to recall the finest details of events, and each word they said to each other. That amazing feeling he had experienced when he first fell in love with Rose, he was able to live through all over again. His face glowed, and his eyes were still full of tears. This time, however, they were tears of happiness. One by one, the scenes of his past life passed in front of him. He saw a wedding ceremony, and Rose in a beautiful white dress. Their opening dance made his head spin in rhythm with a long-forgotten melody. With one stroke of his hand, he removed the blanket from Rose's side of the bed, and he lay his head on her pillow. Her scent was still there. Seems like she had just left the bed. Henry wanted to stay in this dream through eternity. The fear of stopping this fairy tale prevented him from changing his position in bed. Pictures from his wedding evening popped up one after another. "Oh my God, everybody's still so young," Henry remarked. He reviewed his entire honeymoon in the tiniest details. His mind overflowed with happiness and love. He slowly calmed himself down and decided to get off the bed. He wanted to take a better look around the house. After a certain observation, he noticed a door downstairs that was never there before. Curiosity overcame caution, and Henry decided to open it. The door was not locked, and he soon found himself in a long corridor that led into a beautifully decorated room filled with light. The type of room you would see in a fancy magazine. It was almost too perfect for Henry's taste.